Hey guys, welcome back to Cinema Topical. Nate here, and today I have my top 10 least favorite movies of 2022. Oscars are right around the corners. None of these movies are probably going to... Well, actually, that's a lie. At least one of these movies on my list is going to get talked about at the Oscars. But Oscars are coming. Time for me to do my end of last year lists. These are my least favorites. Slight preface. When I say least favorites, some of these movies actually didn't give that bad of a score. But they are all movies that I saw last year. I don't really go out of my way to watch bad movies just to make this list. So out of all the movies I saw, these are just my 10 least favorite. So at number 10, we have The Gray Man. I love Ryan Gosling, like him a lot, but this is also still just kind of your generic, it almost feels like, hey, we have Ryan Reynolds doing all these kind of generic action-y movies now. Let's make one with someone else who's a really good actor that we could put in this that has name recognition that can also play this kind of role. Ryan Gosling. It's a fine movie, but it's just like the latest in a long line of these like garbage, like spy, special forces, whatever you want to call them type movies. Number 9 for me was Fresh, which is interesting. Strange Wang liked this movie a lot more than I did. Yeah, it was okay. I don't know what it like. It's one of those movies where I can't really pinpoint it. It just didn't really do it for me. I think that like this movie tries really hard to like put Sebastian Stan front and center. He's an incredible actor, and I definitely don't think the movie tries to get you to pull for him, but it's just one of those movies where it's like, let's put a really charismatic villain in here, and that'll be like the main draw for the thing. But like, bad guys don't do it for me. So it's number 9. Number 8 for me, the movie that unfortunately, in my opinion, it will be talked about quite a bit come Oscars, and it is Elvis. This is not a good movie. Austin Butler is in fact absolutely incredible. I'm not mad at all about him getting a Best Actor nomination. I actually feel like that is somewhat deserved. But he is literally the only good thing about it. Tom Hanks, good Lord. Like, please go back to making really good movies. The accent is terrible. The character is terrible. The idea to almost essentially tell this story from Colonel Parker's kind of point of view was a terrible idea. He was an awful person. But Elvis also was, in fact, not a good person. So it's kind of hard for me to feel empathetic for this dude because this guy took advantage of him when he's out here marrying 14-year-olds and doing all these fucking drugs. And, like, I understand that part of it, fame has a price, blah, blah, blah. You are responsible for your own actions. I will never feel any differently. And, like, the editing in this movie is not good. The pacing in this movie is okay. I don't understand the hype behind this movie. I said it was going to be terrible when we watched the trailer. It was better than I thought it was going to be, but it's not a good movie. Number 7 for me is The Bubble. I really like the premise of this movie. Like, that was really interesting. I like that they thought to make a movie about making a movie during COVID, but it just got like a little, like they went too hard on like the whole satire thing of it. So like, the different caricatures of how actors are in real life. It was just a little bit too over the top. I did really love the whole the fact they're making this bullshit CGI movie and it's like a terrible movie, but it's what makes money, so they're making it. I love the fact that they made a movie that called that out. Unfortunately, them making a movie that called that out doesn't mean that they're going to stop making those movies. So it fell flat in a lot of ways. Number 6, Deep Water. Deep Water was a movie that was really cool to hate on Twitter for a while. I didn't think it was as bad as everyone on Twitter was making it sound like it was. It still is not a good movie. It is incredibly boring. Hard to find very much interesting in this movie at all. I'm blanking on one of those famous actors' names. Ben Affleck and Anna de Armas have like zero chemistry, which I think that's one of the biggest knocks in the movie. I almost feel like that was the point. I don't know. I can't figure this movie out. I think a lot of people couldn't figure this movie out. This is my number 6. Number 5 is Home Team, the Kevin James, Sean Payton movie. This movie was actually not that bad to me, and the reason it wasn't that bad to me at first was because they had Kevin James in a movie playing like a semi-serious role, like breaking out of like some of the Sandler-ish stuff, but they just had. They couldn't just have like a mildly funny movie that had some heart to it and it just be its thing. They had to throw a freaking gross out gag scene in there, and that is what makes this movie absolutely trash to me. Like the vom scene was so unnecessary. It did not need to be in there. It added absolutely nothing to this movie, and it wasn't even funny. And so like you took a movie that was just like slightly below mid, and then you just dropped it like 2 levels because you just had to have a bunch of kids throwing up uncontrollably on a football field because shit like that was funny in 1994. But it's not anymore. Please stop doing that. Number 4 for me was Lou. This movie was really bad. We want to make a really cheap movie, so we don't want to pay for Jamie Lee Curtis, so we'll get the next best thing, and we'll make a movie about that with this whole weird, like, spy underworld type thing, and, like, it's also just another, like, oh, like, my kid got kidnapped, so now I have to go save them, like Liam Neeson-esque sort of bit. But the acting in it is incredibly dry. The plot is mediocre at best. The whole movie is just, like, really dark, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. This is a case where it did not. Do not like that movie.
Here at Sonotopical, we're unfortunately poor, and this money you see on screen, that's CGI. That's not real money, because again, we're poor. So if you want to click in the ad eye in the corner, that video is monetized and we can make money off it, so please go watch it.
And if you click an ad, we make more money. And if you really want to help, there's the thanks button right there below this video. Number 3 for me is another one that I think is controversial to some, but not like I'm saying a really popular movie is bad. Number 3 for me is Ticket to Paradise. I hated this movie. It was so hokey. I expected so much more from George Clooney and Julia Roberts being in a movie together, other than it just falling back to some of the same jokes and same little bits that all of these like modern day rom-coms do. Like the setting was really cool. The cultural influence that the movie had was really cool. Everything else about this movie sucked, especially that dumb freeze frame at the end that was so lame, and I hated it. Number 2 for me, I will admit, this is a movie that I watched because I knew it was going to be bad, and because I don't watch that many bad movies on purpose, I know that I'm going to have to make this list at the end of the year for this YouTube channel, so I was like, I gotta watch some bad movies. It's The Royal Treatment. It's a Netflix movie. But this one was specifically infuriating to me because homeboy that played Aladdin in the live-action Aladdin was in this movie, and I actually really liked him in that movie. It was a huge movie. It made a lot of money. He, like you literally went from starring in a live-action version of one of the, like, top 3 best Disney movies ever, alongside Will Smith, and then you made this absolutely god-fucking-awful, terrible bullshit, like, rom-com. And, like, I understand, like, you gotta do things for the bag sometimes, but this ain't it. This movie's terrible. And then finally, my number 1 is Where the Crawdads Sing. I am so much more lenient with movies than a lot of other people are, and I understand the fact that, like, Elvis, a movie that a lot of people love being on this list, may seem a little counterintuitive to that. But there are so many movies that people are like, that movie is terrible, like, I can't believe that, and I'm just like, it was fine. Like, I don't understand what's so bad about this movie. I rate my movies on, like, a scale of 1 through 10, and I use, like, decimal points a lot. I never ever thought that I would rate a movie below a 3. How bad a movie has to be for me to put it below a 3 is so bad, and I gave this movie a 1.9. The acting is terrible. The plot is terrible. The script is maybe the worst script for like I'm sure there are plenty of like straight to streaming movies that have worse scripts than this, but in terms of a movie that is based off of an incredibly successful book that went to theaters with the intent of it making money, and you use this script, this is so bad. This movie is god fucking awful. It does not do a single thing correct. And like, I didn't even read the book. Like, I have zero like, oh, this is like such an atrocity compared to like the original work it's based off. I don't even have any of that for you because I didn't read the book. I know it was really popular. This movie's bad. You should just not watch it. In my opinion, you could skip any of these movies on this list. But let me know what your least favorite movies of 2022 were down in the comment section below. Scroll back up, hit the like button, and subscribe.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.